everybody, hope you're all okay. We're trying something a little bit different today, and as everybody knows, one of my favourite parts of the day is guided reading, and if we were in school at the moment, Year 6 would be reading Goodnight Mr Tom by Michelle Magorian. Now, I have managed to find an online copy, and I will post the link in the description for this video. But what I thought we could do is have a read of it together, and I'm going to ask some questions throughout, and if you can write your answers in the comments, or you can tweet me with your answers, and at the end I'm also going to give you some ideas of some writing that you might be able to do following on from what we've read today. So just a little background on Goodnight Mr Tom. The reason we chose to read this one this half term was because our history topic was going to be World War II, and Goodnight Mr Tom is set during the Second World War. It's about a little boy who is evacuated away from his home in London, and it documents his adventures, it documents some of the sad things that he goes through, and it's a really enjoyable book to read as a family or read on your own, so I hope you enjoy it. We're just going to read a couple of pages of chapter 1 today. So the first chapter is called Meeting. "Yes," said Tom bluntly, on opening the front door. "What do you want?" A harassed, middle-aged woman in a green coat and a felt hat stood on his step. He glanced at the armband on her sleeve. She gave him an awkward smile. "I'm the billeting officer for this area," she began. "Oh yeah? What's that got to do with me?" She flushed slightly. "Well, Mr. Oakley, Thomas Oakley." "Oh, thank you, Mr. Oakley." She paused and took a deep breath. "Mr. Oakley, with the declaration of war imminent..." Tom waved his hand. "I knows all that. Get to the point. What do you want?" He noticed a small boy at her side. "It's him I've come about," she said. "I'm on my way to your village hall with the others." "What others?" She stepped to one side. Behind the large iron gate that stood at the end of the graveyard was a small group of children. Many of them were filthy and very poorly clad. Only a handful had a blazer or coat. They all looked bewildered and exhausted. The woman touched the boy at her side and pushed him forward. "There's no need to tell me," said Tom. "It's obligatory, and it's for the war effort." "You are entitled to choose your child, I know," began the woman apologetically. Tom gave a snort. "But," she continued, "his mother wants him to be with someone who's religious or near a church. She was quite adamant, said she would only let him be evacuated if he was." "Was what?" said Tom impatiently. "Near a church." Tom took a second look at the child. The boy was thin and sickly looking, pale with limp sandy hair and dull grey eyes. "His name's Willie," said the woman. Willie, who had been staring at the ground, looked up. Round his neck, hanging from a piece of string, was a cardboard label. It read, "William Beach." Tom was well into his 60s, a healthy, robust, stockily built man with a head of thick white hair. Although he was of average height, in Willie's eyes he was a towering giant, with skin like coarse, wrinkled brown paper and a voice like thunder. He glared at Willie. "You best come in," he said abruptly. The woman gave a relieved smile. "Thank you so much," she said, and she backed quickly away and hurried down the tiny path towards the other children. Willie watched her go. "Come on in," repeated Tom harshly. "I ain't got all day." Nervously, Willie followed him into a dark hallway. It took a few seconds for his eyes to adjust from the brilliant sunshine he had left to the comparative darkness of the cottage. He could just make out the shapes of a few coats hanging on some wooden pegs and 2 pairs of boots standing below. "Suppose you best know where to put your things," muttered Tom, looking up at the coat rack and then down at Willie. He scratched his head. "Bit high for you. I'd best put in a low peg." He opened a door on his left and walked into the front room, leaving Willie in the hallway still clutching his brown carrier bag. Through the half-open door he could see a large black cooking stove with a fire in it and an old threadbare armchair nearby. He shivered. Presently, Tom came out with a pencil. "You can put that old bag down," he said gruffly. "You ain't going no place else." Tom handed him the pencil. He stared blankly up at him. "Go on," said Tom. "I told you before, I ain't got all day. Now make a mark so as I know where to put a peg, see? Willie made a faint dot on the wall beside the hem of one of the large coats. Make a nice big un so I can see it clear like. Willie drew a small circle and filled it in. Tom leaned down and peered at it. Neat little chap, ain't you? Give me your mackintosh and I'll put it on top of mine for now. With shaking fingers, Willie undid his belt and buttons, peeled off the mackintosh and held it in his arms. Tom took it from him and hung it on top of his great coat. He walked back into the front room. Come on, he said. Willie followed him in. So we're going to finish there. I've got 5 pieces of vocabulary that I want you to have a look at today and see whether you can come up with synonyms or come up with the definitions. And they are all just within that short piece that we've read together. So we've got adamant, imminent, obligatory, abruptly, and bewildered. So I want to know what you think all of those mean. You can have them. You can look them up, have a conversation with whoever's at home, see whether they know. You could even try and put them in some sentences as well. I also thought that you could try and get into the character of Willie or Tom. Maybe write a diary entry about how you would feel if you were in Willie's position, if you'd been taken away from your home and you'd been taken to this really strange place and left on a doorstep with a man that you didn't know. The emotions that you might be feeling for that. You could always write a letter home to your parents, telling them how you feel. You could even do a little piece of artwork. There's some quite good description in there of Tom and of Willie, so you could maybe draw what you think they might look like. Tweet all of these things to me, or put some of your answers in the comments, and I look forward to reading them tomorrow. So we'll read the next couple of pages tomorrow morning, and hopefully I'll get a chance to share some of your work that you've produced as well. Have a good day.